competitive players, first of all. Second of all, is what we said earlier, that the political parties, they don't address the issues of the process from the polling unit to the collation centers the right way. Now, this is the state collation center where eventually you are going to announce and return the winner of the election. Whatever is a discrepancy along the way is not addressed in this place. For example, if you feel that there was a miscalculation in the polling units under a particular ward, you don't raise it at the state collation center when there's a ward collation center. If you feel that there was a mistake at the ward collation level, right, I mean at the local government, within 15 wards in the local government, you don't raise it at the state. These are issues to be addressed at that level.
All right. Allow me to put you on hold. We need to let the people know this. Reports just reaching us. If you've been following us at the moment, at some point, the visuals that we were receiving from Imo went blank, and we thought that it was some technical problem, but actually it turned out that our cameraman had been attacked.
Wow.
And so things quickly spiraled out of control, and so our crew had to leave the scene. That's at the collation center in Imo State. Moments before we lost contact, technical contact with Imo State, we saw that things spiraled out of control. The result sheets were being ripped apart, and then fists were flying, and then it led to people fleeing the scene, including the channel's television crew. They realized that the place was becoming unsafe, and they told us that they reported to us that they had to flee. It's unfortunate, but that's what we've seen from the collation center right there in Imo State. I also understand that we are now able to establish contact with Yemi Adamolekun, the convener of, or the executive director, Enough is Enough Nigeria. Yemi Adamolekun, thank you again for joining the conversation. So I believe that you saw how things turned out in Imo State, even as we were reporting the almost impossible situation in Rivers State. How do you react to all of this as an election observer, and even much more importantly as a Nigerian?
It's very disconcerting and really very sad, because ultimately it's about people exercising their right to vote. But when the political class decide that they want election results on their own terms, in their own way, then this is the result that we have. I mean, we have 3 states that have inconclusive elections. In Kano, gunshots in one local government stopped collation in that one. Now we've seen Imo on live TV with a party agent disgruntled about something or another. And as Biodun just said very clearly, you don't wait to the state level to raise issues you've had at ward collation, local government collation. And if you do have an issue, there's a place to speak, and to speak up, speak clearly, lay out your issues and wait for them to be addressed, not snatch papers and tear them. And also, I mean, even back to the political class, the caliber of people and the type of people whose sort of mindset and thought around how to resolve issues when it comes to this electoral process. And really just the sad nature of the fact that our process is fraught with so much distrust. So it's not an issue of people voted, we count votes, we sum them up, we declare results, end of story. We're kidnapping electoral officials, we're burning buildings, we're shooting people just because we're voting. And really, it's, I mean, this election has been really quite, this electoral process, I mean, from the presidential to Saturday's election, has really been quite sad in the very desperate actions of our political class.
Yemi, what do you think is responsible for this level of desperation among the political class, leading to the ugly scenes you're seeing either at the collation center or out in the field?
Well, I'd say 2 things. One big one that we've said over and over again in different ways and in different words is impunity. If you do bad things and there's no penalty, you will continue to do bad things. I mean, the governor of Imo, for example, sequestered 14 busloads of electoral officials. I haven't heard a peep. Nothing has happened. You have the military who, from the beginning of the elections on Saturday, several civil society organizations were flagging the role of the military in this elections. The army says they're investigating, but we haven't, not one person has been picked up, nothing has been done. Not even the army coming out and saying our men are not supposed to do this and we strongly condemn. I mean, there's a way you can communicate with words, even while you're investigating, that communicates clearly to Nigerians that this behavior is unacceptable. And I don't know, I haven't been glued to my TV throughout, but unless I've missed it, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen a clear condemnation that this is not how our men are meant to behave, where apologize to Nigerians, in a sense, treat it as deviant behavior. I mean, yes, nobody is perfect, but you can say that, oh, this is a bad, bad egg or bad apple in the bunch, and we apologize to Nigeria for the behavior of this one soldier, of these 3 soldiers. But you have a whole racket of them running amok all over the place, and nobody is saying anything. The former governor of Rivers clearly stated that there were peaceful elections in Rivers. Who says that with the evidence before us? So when we can say these things with confidence and with full authority that this is the truth according to me, and nobody gets punished, there's no repercussion for doing that, then we can't blame anyone if they continue to do it again. And that's one. And I think secondly, we really need to be quite clear around the type of people as Nigerian citizens we want to represent us in the political space. I mean, my organization does a lot of work around voter education and civic engagement and civic participation. And there's just a huge gap between what citizens see to be their role, see to be their place in this electoral process, and we've abdicated the space into them versus us. So there's a lot that we need to do in getting citizens to understand that the people that you elect are there to serve. In a sense, as we say, they work for you. If not for citizens, none of these elected officials have a job. And it's because they're representing us that they get paid a salary. Now, until we begin to treat them as employees that we can call to order and we can ask questions and demand a certain level of behavior, then we will continue to get the results that we have.
All right, so we've seen very, very disturbing and disappointing and shameful scenes coming out of the collation center right there in Imo State. In a civil society, what should happen after now?
Oh, wow. And I think just before I forget as well, I think this is a big role for the Peace Committee at this time. I mean, prior to the elections, there were peace accords being signed. The Peace Committee spoke a lot about peace. I haven't heard General Abdusalami say anything. He's a former military, he's a retired military officer. This is, in a sense, his constituency if we look at the River State incident. So it's not, enough, in my opinion, enough people have died. Even if it's just only one death, and it's not one. I think between the start of the elections and now, I think we've recorded almost 60 deaths. This is a good time to talk about peace. This is a good time to call the political class to order and say that you made a pledge that you were going to fight fair and freely, and you are not, and this is a problem. I haven't heard any of them say anything. Again, I haven't been glued to the TV in case I missed it. But for what civil society needs to do now really is to engage on how do we fix this process. Obviously, our electoral process is broken, and one of the things we're advocating is not only an audit of the system, but a sort of a holistic look at what is it that we're doing, from the number of political parties that we have, to the way we actually vote, to training of ad hoc staff, to INEC's responsibilities, to what penalties need to be put on political parties. A whole look at the whole process very quickly. So it's not that we're done with elections, everybody goes back to rest, but that we take on these issues immediately. And that INEC needs to be at the forefront of driving electoral reform. They're the agency responsible for conducting elections in the country. We provide support as civil society organizations, but it's primarily their responsibility. So based on their experience, based on the challenges that they've had, based on whoever might have interfered or whoever might have tried to sabotage, from their own vantage point, from where we were in 2015, and in a sense, I think based on 2015, there was just a general assumption that we would improve on 2015. So there wasn't really as much attention, and I think civil society does accept that there wasn't really that much of attention paid on the commission for 2019 elections, and the commission gave what's the word I'm looking for? Constantly gave updates. They engaged quite a number of stakeholder meetings. They engaged and constantly said, we're ready, we're prepared, no challenges, no issues. At no point in the process did the commission say, hey, we've got problems. Hey, this is happening. Hey, we have a challenge. At no point did they say that. So I think it's really now going back to the table and saying, okay, you didn't say you had problems. We now see that obviously you had a lot of problems. And we, in a sense, coasted along because we thought, milestone in 2015, everybody hailed it as this turning point in our election process, and we just expected 2019 to be an improvement. So let's now go back, 2015, 2019, what are the things that went wrong, and what do we now want to drive as part of reforming Nigeria's electoral process? Every time we've talked about reducing the responsibilities of INEC, setting up a petition election tribunal as a separate entity so that there are powers to prosecute immediately and people get justice. Do we want to take out voter education and put it in the National Orientation Agency so that takes that out of INEC's responsibility? But we just need really clear a discussion around INEC's process. And then take the military, for example. Now, the president is the commander-in-chief, and he has ultimately responsibility in deploying the military. However, the military is also part of INEC's election security consultative meetings. But their own ambit is really within a polling unit and in terms of securing materials as they go back and forth. But deploying them on the streets of towns and what we've seen in places like Rivers has nothing to do with INEC, nor does INEC have the powers to call the army to order. So where does that leave us in having a discussion with the army around, okay, what exactly is this about? And voting is a civilian process. We're not under military rule. So really, the police should be the people that we see policing the election day process, whereas we need the armed forces in terms of Air Force flying materials and all of that as part of the general election process. So really just these conversations and not waiting till even 2021. The conversations need to start this year in framing the issues and sort of mapping out a plan of how we hope to deal with the issues that we've seen.
All right. Thank you, Yemi. Liberals, I need you to respond to this because definitely from what we saw in Imo State and Rivers State, I don't know whether to say crimes have been committed. And strong statements, yes, strong statements need to be made. Who are the sets of people that we need from this morning to hear strong statements from them?
Yeah, I would take it from where Yemi, he raised a very germane issue. The Peace Committee, one, because some of us did raise our doubt when these gladiators or contestants were signing peace accord, and we have the view that if anybody needs to sign peace accord, in most cases, or the supporters also need to sign peace accord, because you find out that it is the supporters also that will be at the collation center. It is the supporters that will be on the field. They will be at the voting centers, and in most cases, they are the ones that create a problem. And then also, there's need. You have a governor in that state. There's need to hear strong condemnation from the governor. INEC also need to make a strong statement. This attitude and helplessness. INEC seems to be, create a picture of helplessness, that we are helpless. Whoever, like in the case of Rivers, whoever these people are, we are calling on the authority to investigate them, men in uniform. And with the boldness that these men in uniform exhibit, you can't say these are just men in uniform. They're definitely, from either the Nigerian Army or the Nigerian Air Force, as the case may be. And so, Yemi also raised a very important and germane point, which you have asked. Statements from the authority who are investigating. Even though you are investigating, oh yes, we have rules of engagement.
Authority sounds to me too broad.
No, when I say the authority, the chief of army staff, because it was the same chief of army staff that said they were investigating. But in investigating, have you clearly spelled out the rules of engagement to these men who are out there, sealing collation centers? And then I also said something just now, Section 150 of the Electoral Act, subsection 2, authorizes INEC to prosecute electoral offenders. Even though you don't have the funds or you don't have the capacity to prosecute, all, there are certain persons you need to use to show examples. We all know, if you've, observe or monitor elections in Nigeria, we all know that at the collation center, at the state collation centers like this, or just like at the, the National Collation Center, if there are observations, you raise them. In some cases, you are directed to the admin or the back room. These are issues that had come up at the local government collation center, because these were results coming from the local government collation center. And so for a political party's representative to boldly on international TV shred the results, shred the will and the wish of the people, it is an offense against the state. It is akin to wanting to surreptitiously impose your will on the wish of these people, which also can even mean, taking over a government through unconstitutional means. And so INEC should also can use, such people to make example, to say, look, for this one, we don't even want to leave it to the state. Maybe he's related to the party in power. We also talk, and it's also very common when we talk about elections, and then we say balance of power, balance of terror. Like in Imo, you have some in ABGA, you have some in APC, you have some in PDP. So you say these people have show of equal strength. But the ultimate, which is the state, nobody can be stronger than the state. Yeah. The state should be able to put its foot down in cases like this, to say, no, we will not tolerate irresponsibility, we will not tolerate impunity, we will not tolerate a violation of the rules of engagement. But when nothing happens, what you are telling those who have the capacity to also destroy ballot materials but are not yet doing it, is that it pays to destroy ballot materials. And so when that happens, in some cases, INEC might say, okay, we cancel votes from this area, which is what they actually want to achieve in the first place. So you give them opportunity. A man who intentionally disrupts a process, you give him an opportunity to go redo the process. So these are some of the challenges. And to answer your question directly, that I would expect the Commissioner of Police in that state to make a bold statement on. I will expect the state governor, I will expect the resident electoral commissioner, and also for Rivers, the Nigerian Army. The unfortunate part of it is that, the opposition party led by the former minister, or the current minister for transport in Rivers, in 2015, they went to court to challenge the powers of the government to deploy the military to keeping peace during the election. And then the people that condemned that stance at that time.
I'm afraid we need to take a short break right now. I will allow you to land your thoughts when we come back. Stay with us.